Welcome to Daily Plunge. We're in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 10, verses 25 through 37. It begins with an expert in the law asking Jesus, "What must I do to inherit eternal life?" Now, the problem with the question is there's nothing you can do to give yourself eternal life. You just don't have that power, right? It's beyond you. Secondly, you don't do anything to create for yourself an inheritance. This is a gift. So it's an odd question, and Jesus asks in another question, a response. And the man responds with that you are to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and you are to love your neighbor as yourself, or strength, not soul. Now, these words are on the lips of Jesus in the Gospels of Matthew and Mark in response to what is the greatest commandment. And so one of the things to recognize here is that this response was a common response to this question. It is a summation of both the first and the second tablets of the Ten Commandments. Love God, love your neighbor. And so then Jesus responds, "Oh, you've answered correctly. Do this and you will live. Love God, love neighbor." And that is our calling upon our lives. But then the man wanting to justify himself. Now, the word justify doesn't show up a whole lot in the Gospels, but boy, Paul loved that word. And we really cannot justify ourselves as sinners before God. God justifies us through the work of Jesus Christ on the cross. So, how is this man to justify himself? Who is my neighbor? And then he talks about the Pharisee and the Levite who pass a man who is beaten up, robbed, and left for dead on the side of the road on the way to Jericho, or from Jericho to Jericho. And, we get it. It's easy for us these guys who are supposed to be lovers of the Lord are not lovers of other people, and they walk by him. And then comes along the Good Samaritan. And the Good Samaritan is somebody who has a syncretistic faith, who believes in other gods beyond the God of Israel. Believes in him too. I mean, just a la carte, right? And he stops and he takes care of him. So is the answer to our question, what must I do to inherit eternal life, that we are to become good Samaritans? That regardless of whether we love God or not, we're good. Now, one of the problems we have with the parables, not a problem with the parables, it's a problem with us, is that the parables, for the most part, are law. They convict us of our sin. And this convicts us of our religious self-righteousness, but it doesn't really say that we are to be good Samaritans and that that's the way to eternal life. Is works the answer to that question? And the resounding answer has to be no. So I think that begs the question when he says, well, who is the neighbor? And he says, oh, the one who took mercy. But who's the guy who's down in the ditch? Is that us? Are we the person? No, we're supposed to be the one who's supposed to be the neighbor to him. So then, who's the guy in the ditch? Who's the one that is rejected, and who's humiliated, and who's put up on the cross to die? Jesus. Do we love him? Do we care for him? I don't think there's an easy answer to this. I'll be really honest. I think this parable we should be a lot more unsettled by this parable. And that's where I end. Well, thanks, friends. Have a blessed day.